Great. Good afternoon. It's great to be up here. We're one of the CoControl is part of the group of sustainable venture companies, startup companies. It was great to see many of you over at Sustainable Bridges yesterday, and you'll be hearing later from Andrew Wordsworth, the chair of the group as a whole. CoControl, what's CoControl itself? It's a smart heating control system. Now, when people sort of hear about smart heating control systems, then immediately coming to mind are the likes of Nest, Hive, and indeed Tado. So that was the sort of market that's out there. But the important thing about CoControl is we are not competing in that market. That's the able to pay market. We are very clearly focused on the social housing sector. Very significant carbon savings to be made in that sector, but actually also very significant cost savings to be made in that sector. And in fact, from our experience from field trials last year, I'd venture to say there are more chances of making cost savings from the efficient use of heating in the social housing sector rather than the able to pay sector, which is probably actually quite a tech-savvy group of people who are probably quite comfortable with some of the engineering approaches that are in there already. Whereas some of the groups that we're dealing with, it's very clear that they fear often the heating systems which are there in place beforehand. And some of the examples of the very simple feedback loops, which I'll talk about later when I show the field data, has got them to interact with their heating system. And that kind of behavioral change can actually deliver much greater energy savings in that sector than the able to pay sector, I'd argue. So I'll come on to the savings for the individuals in a second. But the real focus around CoControl in terms of the business model is also what we can do for the social housing provider. As I said, that is a sector we focus on. And I'm not going to stand here and say it's a perfect sector in lots of ways. You'll have heard about the pressures that are there in terms of rent cuts that are forcing some of the sort of strategic decisions to be very focused. But if we think about that compared to the able to pay sector, there are also some real advantages. It's a B2B sale. So when we're talking to Orbit Housing Group, we are talking about a sale which is moving towards putting it into 40,000 homes, not one by one. It's a staged process, but that's a business-to-business sale that you can make. That's the first part of it. The second part of it, and why I put this slide up, is actually the very pressures that are on the social housing providers at the moment on cost pressures gives a real focus, particularly on this area of operations, the routine and planned maintenance. Now, at the moment, a lot of those decisions and the levels of investment, so this is one housing association, you see 50,000, that's 5 million that's actually been put in there, and overall across the housing, social housing sector, 7.1 billion per year invested in this whole sector of routine maintenance. Those are often made on the basis of there's a group of residents over here that shout louder than any other. Or there's a particular pot of money that you can access if you spend it in this way. And it's all very tactical. And yet, you can see this is the largest spend that is in the annual budget of housing associations, and they're being driven by tactical decision-making. Whereas actually their core asset, the buildings, need that strategic decision-making and that strategic advice. And what CoControl provides to the housing associations, because the way in which we control the heating through monitoring in the home, the internal temperatures, the humidity levels, and the actual energy performance, you can actually have estate A over here, estate B over here, and have real-time energy and humidity monitoring. So you've got a really clear idea that estate A has X kilowatt per meter squared that it's using within the homes. Estate over here that's got an average of Y. You've got humidity levels that are 90% in one, 70% in one as an average, and 30% in the other. You've actually got a very clear picture of what your housing asset is actually, how it's performing. And on that basis, you can then make the strategic decision to say, well, actually, we need to invest in our strategic assets in building estate A rather than building estate B. And there might be one or two individuals you can see that are shouting loudest, but actually by looking at how they are using their energy, you might find that there's actually a behavior change program, much lower cost intervention, that can deal with that. So this is the key element of CoControl, of what it offers. It's the data that you provide through the heating control system that provides that really valuable strategic decision-making tool, the investment optimization dashboard for the social housing provider themselves. But clearly we can't do that if we don't also provide the residents themselves some very clear savings. And they've sort of seen that in things like smart meter rollout. Residents are saying, what's the benefit to me? Well, our field trials last year in over 100 homes showed the very clear benefits that you can get. And as I sort of alluded to earlier, what we found in particular is that there were people beforehand that were kind of doing things like having their homes at 15, 18 degrees, really low levels because they didn't want to use too much energy. They'd get cold, whack it up to 28. Funnily enough, they sit there gradually getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and only when it gets to that level of 28, because I think you have to turn it up high to get the house heating up more quickly, do they then turn the thermostat down. That, compared to having a comfort switch, where basically what we say is we set a background temperature to start with, and then we ask people to press either they want the house warmer with a plus button or cooler with a minus button. That actually allows them to interface with their heating system, and it evens out the flows. So they get a more comfortable home, and they also they cut out that incredibly wasteful part where they're overheating their homes. So there were several people within the trial that were halving their energy costs, their gas costs, while at the same time being more comfortable. Now, a lot of that is just around the interaction. So we're not going to say, halve your gas bill, we're going to halve your gas bill. But what we can go to this housing association and say, across the residents where you put this in, you'll reduce the gas consumption by around 20%. And again, that's the business-to-business sale, which makes a difference there. And the individuals can put that in, and by changing their behaviour, you'll save different levels of energy in each case, but you will make a very significant difference. And these are just a couple of examples of showing just how differently people use their homes and heat their homes. And by interacting in this kind of way, you really get to the bottom of that behaviour change. In terms of the links that we've got, the key links, we worked with 6 social housing providers last year. We've got another 4 this year. Key one being Orbit Housing Group. They're sort of very much part of our steering group and are helping us design the investment optimization dashboard. Next, the key important part that we've found is working with the maintenance contractors. They're the ones that can see the real benefit in having this as a value-added service. And also, if you put in CoControl before and afterwards, you can really show the benefits that you get from the refurbishment projects that you're putting in place. So again, a key route to market. This then is the key slide. How we've got to this point is partly through grants that we've secured. Innovate UK, significant grants of developing the technology and helping the field trials last year. We raised, almost exactly this time last year, 150,000 of equity through crowdfunding to get us to that stage of developing the background, smart technology and the algorithms behind it. Throughout, Climate-KIC has been key, right from the start, and now our phase 3 accelerator grant, which has allowed us to move into this final stage, which is actually reducing the costs through printed circuit board designs that now mean that the production costs mean that you can actually put these in place for around about, we've reduced it from £200 including install right down to 130, and our plan is that should be below £100 per install. So again, very much catered for the market. We'll also then develop using that to start the process of the investment optimization dashboard working with the social landlords. And that is the key part of development for this coming winter. And that's kind of, I guess, the very much the pitch to finish on, is we're at the point now where we're looking for something like 250,000 to 300,000 as an equity input. It's a great time to invest because at this point, at a very early stage, you get a significant proportion of the equity in the company for a business that we expect to exit in something like 3 to 5 years' time, at that point with an annual turnover of somewhere between 7 and 10 million. So it is an exciting sector. We are the leaders in this because we've actually done the field trials out there. We've got the links with the social housing providers and the maintenance contractors. So I'm really hoping to talk to some of you later on about investment in CoControl. Thank you.